Good evening and welcome. I'm Beverly Morgan Sandoz, and I have the honor of being chair of the City of Pasadena's Commission on the Status of Women. And I would like to thank all of you for joining us this evening. We'll begin our program with acknowledgements and some brief statements, and then we have some special pre-recorded greetings from two key figures. Then we'll get to the heart of our program, our moderator and some fantastic panelists. We'll end the program with certificates of acknowledgement to two former commission members and closing remarks. So now I'd like to acknowledge our partner organizations. Adelante Youth Alliance, Stella Murga, Executive Director, All Saints Church, Juliana Serrano, Senior Associate for Justice, Emerge California, Melanie V. Ramil, Executive Director, League of Women Voters Pasadena, Martha Zavala, President, Pasadena Media, and the National Council of Negro Women, San Gabriel Valley Section, Laura Hamilton, member. A special thank you to Director Brenda Harvey Williams and Deputy Director Lola Osborne, the powerful female leadership of the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Community Service, the department that provides staffing and other support to the commission. And thank you to their staff members, Ali Everett and Tamer Sabah. I am pleased to say that we are joined today by a diverse group of participants representing local, regional, state, and even national concerns. I see that we have in our audience today, Julie Gutierrez, who is the Assistant City Manager of the City of Pasadena. And I want to do a special recognition to two female City Council members, Councilmember Jessica Rivas, a former member of the Commission on the Status of Women, and Councilmember Felicia Williams. I believe that Councilmember Rivas is with us. And if you are, would you unmute and would you like to say a greeting?
Sure. Thank you so much, Chair Morgan Sandoz. I really appreciate it. It's so good to see everyone, even if only virtually. I just want to say I'm so excited for tonight's event for two reasons. First, I know we on the commission last year were so disappointed that our event was canceled due to the pandemic. So it's so good to see that it's back and better than ever. Second, I am so excited about tonight's topic. It's an important one, elevating women into public office, and also the illustrious speakers and panel members that will be discussing it. I think it's important that folks recognize that commissions, including this one particularly, in my case, really do build a bench for leadership in our city and beyond. So thank you, Chair, commissioners, staff, Ali and Tamer, of course, for all the important and hard work that you do. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Rivas. Now I'd like to celebrate and thank the ad hoc committee members who planned this event. Chair, Commissioner Lorraine Montgomery, Commissioners Sandra Lindoffer, and Commissioner Margaret Delarius. Thank you. A bit about the Pasadena Commission on the Status of Women. It was created in 1987. Its 9 members are nominated and appointed by the mayor and city council. The commission exists as an advisory body to the city council, and there is currently 1 vacancy on the commission. Each year, the commission hosts an event celebrating Women's History Month, which we call Herstory, held normally in March. But because we believe women's achievement span the entire year, we've decided to hold this event in April. Madeleine Albright, former Secretary of State, says women in power can be counted on to raise issues that others have overlooked, to support ideas that others oppose, and to seek an end to abuses that others accept. Research has shown that women are effective politicians, introducing more bills, bringing more funding to their districts. But the barriers that women face can be daunting. They have to prove that they can be effective. They have to overcome stereotypes. They have to raise campaign funds, and they have to prove that they are both qualified and likable. The ad hoc committee has put together an outstanding group of women who have overcome these and other barriers, and we celebrate and elevate them tonight. And we are excited to hear about their journey. Now for the pre-recorded greetings. I'd like to introduce Congresswoman Judy Chu, who was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives in July 2009. She represents the 27th Congressional District, which includes Pasadena and the West San Gabriel Valley of Southern California. Can you please cue up the greeting from Congresswoman Chu?
Hello, I'm Congressmember Judy Chu, and I'm thrilled to be joining the Pasadena Commission on the Status of Women for today's Herstory event. I'm particularly excited that you are helping encourage more women to run for office because last November we shattered yet another glass ceiling and made history when we elected Kamala Harris as the first female vice president in U.S. history. Not only is she the first woman, she's also the first Black woman and first Asian American in the White House. Watching a woman of color like Kamala Harris sworn in as our vice president meant so much to me because I know what it meant to the millions of young girls who were watching along. You see, as a young girl myself, I never actually thought I would be in elected office, let alone a member of Congress. It is because I never saw anyone like me in such positions, so it never even occurred to me that it was a possibility. But these days, that is changing dramatically. And I hope by sharing my own journey, I can encourage more women to take that step. I made the decision to run for office when something terrible happened in my city of Monterey Park. The city was changing because immigrants were moving in and an anti-immigrant backlash occurred. There was a loud group of longtime residents that resented the new immigrants. They wanted English only on the signs in the city and only English books in the library. The last straw was when there was a resolution passed by the city council saying that only English should be spoken in the city. Well, when the English-only resolution passed, people said enough was enough. It became apparent that the makeup of the city council did not reflect the people who lived there. So I ran for the council to be a new voice, a voice that would work to bring the community together. I won that election and spent the next 13 years on the council working to build a more inclusive city, serving as mayor 3 times. Then a vacancy occurred for the state assembly seat in my district. But when I decided to run, I was quickly blocked by the Old Boys Network that was in power. You see, the establishment chose their candidate, and it wasn't me. Because of their powerful backing, the Speaker of the Assembly at that time did not support me either. Things looked bleak. But then there was a turning point in my campaign, and I remember it well. It was the moment that a mentor came to help me. It was when then Congresswoman Hilda Solis decided to support me. We had already developed a good relationship because of the many issues that we worked on together at the local level. And she had gone against the establishment herself. When she ran for Congress, it was against an entrenched longtime incumbent. She faced many naysayers in her campaign, but she persevered. I supported her in that race, and in one of the most memorable campaigns in Los Angeles history, she won. She never forgot it. It was her support that gave me the momentum I needed, and I won the state assembly seat. That experience taught me an incredibly important lesson. Find a mentor. Find somebody who believes in you and will help you. I found one with Hilda Solis, and it made all the difference in the world. When women support each other, we succeed in making real change. So to each of you, keep it up. You are capable of doing more than you may have even imagined for yourself. I never imagined running for office or that I would be in Congress. But when an opportunity came, I made sure I was ready. And in 2009, I took that opportunity and became the first Chinese American woman ever elected to Congress. So I want to encourage you to continue to learn and dream. and to follow exciting opportunities when they present themselves. Because I know that you can do anything that you put your mind to.
We thank Congresswoman Chu for her remarks and for sharing her remarkable journey. Now for our second virtual greeting. I have the pleasure of introducing a video from Supervisor Hilda Solis. Supervisor Solis was sworn in as Los Angeles County Supervisor for the 1st District on December 1st, 2014. She currently serves as the chair of the all-female Board of Supervisors. A nationally recognized leader on the environment, Supervisor Solis became the first woman to receive the John F. Kennedy Profile Encourage Award in 2000 for her pioneering work on environmental justice issues. Please cue up Supervisor Solis's greeting.
Hi, I'm Hilda L. Solis, Chair of the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors and Supervisor for the 1st District. Like so many women, I spent my career being in rooms and sitting at tables filled with men. And when there are women at my table, I am usually the only woman of color. I was the first woman to win the John F. Kennedy Profile Encourage Award, the first Latina to serve in the California State Senate, and the first Latina to serve in the presidential cabinet. I was incredibly proud to assume each of those roles, but we need to make more progress occur so that is the norm instead of the exception. It's not new, but I'm glad that it's changing. And this year, women are continuing to break barriers. We now have the first women vice president. And right here in LA County, just look at our all-female Board of Supervisors. Having 5 women elected to the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors for the first time in history, or better yet, her story. As the proud daughter of immigrants and the 3rd oldest of 7 children, I saw the tremendous effort and passion my parents put into building a life for themselves and my siblings, a life in a new country. All my parents asked for was a fair shot. They found fairness by organizing with their fellow workers. And at a young age, I vowed to do what I can to help them and people like them, to help immigrants, to help working class people, young people, to help everyone lift themselves up and reach the American dream. I attended La Puente High School. While there, I noticed a lack of support for students who wanted to pursue higher education like myself. In fact, a guidance counselor told my mother that I wasn't college material and suggested I become a secretary. However, another teacher encouraged me to attend college and pursue financial aid opportunities. I went to Cal Poly Pomona, where I graduated with a degree in political science, and later USC, where I received my master's degree in public administration. However, that college counselor who told me to become a secretary turned out to be half right. I would become a secretary. In this role, I was the first Latina to ever hold a position in the United States cabinet. That was a dream come true, something I aspired to and proudly accomplished. Before that, I was a program director for the California Student Opportunity and Access Program, where I saw firsthand the doors financial aid opened for students I worked with. When I first ran for office, I served on the Rio Hondo College Board of Trustees. That was because I knew the importance of education for me, and I wanted to share in that with other students. Later, I got to serve in the California State Assembly, the State Senate, and eventually Congress, expanding access to affordable health care, advocating for women's rights, fighting for environmental justice, protecting and preserving the San Gabriel Valley Mountains, and improving the lives of working families is something to which I dedicated my time in those roles. Like many women, I hope to do many things to serve my community, and I hope that all women, wherever you are, help to create a world where every young girl and woman activates her infinite potential for change.
Thank you, Supervisor Solis, for those inspiring words. Now we're getting to the heart of our program. We're going to hear from more women who have said, yes, I can, and who did, just as our 2 previous speakers did. They're going to share their stories, and their stories will contribute to her story. So I'd like to introduce our moderator for this discussion, the former Vice Mayor of Pasadena, Jacque Robinson-Baisley, who was when she was elected to the Pasadena City Council became one of the youngest elected officials in the history of the city of Pasadena at the age of 28. Did you hear me? 28. Remarkable. She served on the council from 2007 to 2015. She's a member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority, and she's the proud mom of a 3-year-old daughter. Moderator Robinson-Baisley.
Thank you, Chair Sandoz. I appreciate your introduction and even that you included my membership in Delta Sigma Theta. Welcome everyone to tonight's program. I'm very happy to see everyone and I can't wait until we can see each other in person. I am very privileged and feel very excited that the Commission on the Status of Women asked me to moderate this program tonight. Although I'm not currently in elected office, I really cherished the time that I spent on the City Council. It was a series of ups and downs that I'm sure many of our panelists will share with you about their own experiences tonight. But even while I was on the council and now, I continue to try to encourage women and especially young women to get involved in their communities and prepare themselves to run for office. Just a very brief story, and I was reminded through Congresswoman Chu's remarks and also Supervisor Solis's remarks about many of the challenges that women face when they get ready to run for office and all of the naysayers that may get into their heads and discourage them. And just as a brief history, I want to share that the city of Pasadena was chartered in 1886. And I decided to run for mayor in 2015. One of those reasons being that there has never been a female mayor in the city of Pasadena elected. And so to acknowledge the women that came before me and before us, I'd like to just let all of you know that the 8 women that have been elected to the Pasadena City Council are Jo Heckman, Katie Knack, Loretta Glickman, Anne Marie Villicana, Joyce Streeter, and my colleague Margaret McGostin, who was also elected in 2007. Congratulations to Felicia Williams again, who's the District 2 Councilwoman right now, and also Jessica Rivas, who is appointed, and we hope she will decide to run when the time comes. I was encouraged by women very early on in my career in Pasadena, and I just like to say going forward that we really do hope that you will consider running for office one day, not just being on a commission. It's important that our voices are there to be heard. And I look forward to tonight's conversation with my esteemed colleagues on tonight's panel. So again, welcome and thank you to tonight's program. I also like to remind everyone that we will be taking questions and answers. So if you have a question, please do type it into the chat box. And we have someone monitoring those questions and we'll get to those at the end of the discussion. I'll begin by briefly introducing each of tonight's panelists, and then I'll direct questions to each panelist as appropriate. I'd like to start tonight's discussion with Supervisor Kathryn Barger. She is our supervisor for the 5th Supervisorial District, and I have to say that I am encouraged by the fact that the Board of Supervisors is all female right now. Supervisor Barger has a long history with the county and with our region. Prior to becoming the supervisor, many of you know she served with Supervisor Michael Antonovich, first starting off as an intern, which is a really important stepping stone for some into public service and elected office. So I'd like to start with Supervisor Barger, welcome her, and ask her, how did she decide to switch roles from staff to running for office herself?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me tonight. And I love seeing my colleague, Hilda Solis, giving her welcoming remarks. You're right, I'm serving with 5 women. When I started with the county, it was 5 men. And Jacque, your words resonate with me. At this time, you look at LA City, who just got another woman on their board, on their council. It's long overdue, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the city of Pasadena is going to bring forward in the next few years. And I think we have exciting options. But it's interesting. I really have a passion for public service. And so I've never had an intention for running for office. And what you'll find if you talk to a lot of women, I know there are some that are on listening today, Many of them will be told or asked to run. Men wake up and think, I can do it, I'm gonna run for office. Women tend to have people come to them and say, have you ever thought about running? And you should think about it, you should do it, we want you to run. That was exactly me. When the supervisor was termed out, I was planning on writing the next chapter of my life. People came to me because I truly do have a passion for public service. And I also have a great relationship with labor and quite frankly, with all elected officials, no matter what the party is, because I want to represent the district well. And so I was encouraged to run, apprehensive, and I'm glad I didn't know what I didn't know going into the election. I know you can relate with that, Jacque. It's amazing what you didn't know about yourself, especially things that aren't true until you run for office. And it was a humbling experience, but I have to say that I didn't let it get in my head. I picked close friends around me and I didn't look back. And I figured I have nothing to lose other than the race. And I gave it everything I had and more because I have a passion for this. And I was very fortunate to pass the finish line the first time and then get reelected.
Thank you, Supervisor. And you mentioned something very important in your remarks. You did run in an open race. Supervisor Antonovich at the time was retiring, and so it was an open race, but that is not always the case. And I think sometimes women hold back from running because there are a lot of incumbents out there, most of them male. And so I want to start with Char and ask her what encouraged you to run for office, and what would you say to women who are planning to run against incumbents? And if you could, I'm sorry, Char, you're muted right now. And if you could also share with us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, do you want to do that as well? That'd be great.
Sure. Char is an executive and community leader. Many of you know her through her community-based work with organizations such as the Commission on the Status of Women, but also where she led for 6 years as chair. But she also has been a leader in awareness for pay equity and homelessness. She's the past vice president of the Association of California Commissions for Women, and she was recently a candidate for District 4 in the City of Pasadena last year. And so again, Char, could you please share your experience of deciding to run against an incumbent and some of the factors that you considered in making that decision?
Absolutely. You know, running against an incumbent, even though I often said we're both running for the seat and not running against each other, right? And so first I have to ask myself, you know, and other community members and carefully examine whether or not it could be done. You know, statistics say that an incumbent wins 85% of the time. And, you know, Kathryn, Supervisor Barger, for me, it's like I did say one day, you know, I'm going to run and went out there and ran. Nobody came knocking on the door or called me up. So I really put myself out there. And the incumbent that was running had served 2 terms and was going for a 3rd term. And the first step I needed to consider is the overall political environment. Sometimes the makeup of the voters change and people move in and out of a district. But in my district, the demographics don't change very much. A lot of ownership and a lot of community involvement. So I asked myself, what is the general mood of the voters? So 2 things. Does the voters perceive that things are on the right track with issues and concerns within the district? And number 2, do I, as a new candidate, care about these issues, but offer a different plan to address the issues? These are the barriers that I really needed to address. So the way that I began to overcome them is, you know, the key was to start announcing my candidacy early and defining myself and the issues of the race. My passion was for environmental justice. It started the flame for me to run after seeing neighbors get sick and pass away, and their voices not being heard in this community. So meeting with key stakeholders in the community, elected officials, unions, corporations that in most cases supported my candidacy. But in other situations, it became political. So the answer of support was, I'm not supporting you, but I'm not going to support your opponent, which to me, I took as a win. And so with that, I perceived that as a positive and, you know, feedback from those meetings. And I began to build a grassroots campaign. I built what I call a front porch platform, where neighbors would begin to see each other and connect and communicate and say hello and talk about the issues. With the supports of the volunteers that I called me and just said, I want to help you win. They knocked on every door. They made every phone call to say, Char's running for a seat on the Pasadena City Council because she stands for our communities in support of healthy families. Organizing a campaign from the ground up with asking for contributions, hiring campaign managers, strategists, and then purchasing a political data information was all part of the success of moving towards those barriers. But I must say, when you mentioned mentors, I heard that from a couple of the welcome speeches, that's critical. And, having a mentor like Jacque step up, who's been out there in City Hall, and the type of support that she gives as a manager that says, you can't get sick, you can't take time off, you have to wait till March 4th, right? That was, no matter what happened and it was in that day, that was on the back burner. So, and the residents that stepped up and did coffee and conversations, and the behind the scenes support of my supporters, of those who couldn't speak in the front, but in the background, kept that going for me. But I have to critically say that one of the barriers that really helped me get through was when I was endorsed by the now Vice President Kamala Harris, who called me, not only endorsed me, but called me on the day of March 3rd and said, keep encouraged and go for the win. And just reminding my campaign team to just keep that in front of you. And so I must say, even though I didn't win, I came in second with 4 people running and got over about 2,000 voters. So I consider that a win. 2,000 people almost saying yes for me. And so that's my experience. Thank you for allowing me to share.
Thank you, Char. And I think that's important to share that, there is life after losing, so to speak. I used to be proud of the fact that I had won all of my elections, but as many of you know, I decided to run for mayor in 2015, and I unfortunately lost that race. But one of the things that I also want to add is that even though you may lose your first election, that is not the end. We want to encourage you to run again. Your first election, if you do happen to lose, gives you an opportunity to get your name out there for people to know who you are, to know why you're running and why you're dedicated to the community. And in the future, you may decide to run again. So definitely don't lose the contacts and the relationships that you have as a candidate, and your character and everything that you build during the campaign will be something that continues to follow you both in your professional and personal careers. I want to next turn to Mayor Deborah Robertson. Thank you for joining us, Mayor. Mayor Robertson serves in the city of Rialto, and she has been serving as elected mayor since November 2012. And so, Mayor Robertson, I just want to ask you, what has changed since your first election and running multiple times to your current role? And what would you suggest in terms of people beginning to organizing their kitchen cabinet and their support, both as a candidate and while they're in office?
Thank you, Jacque, for the opportunity to be a part of this dialogue, this panelist. I want to say that you and I have had passing. I acknowledge that to Sandra. I remember when you first did come on board, your first election, because at the same time I knew Miss Streeter, Joyce. I had occasions to meet you, passing at the California League of Cities. So it's great to see you again. Also to see Supervisor Kathryn Barger, who she and I both sit on the regional council. So we were having chances to see each other in person, but we've been in Zoom world for over a year and a half. To the question that you asked me, what happened or the beginning, let me just start by saying, someone said earlier, not only women tend to maybe sit back and have someone to have to come in and tell them to run. And we're not usually waking up that morning and saying, like, man, I'm going to run for office. I also originally was born and raised in San Diego. And prior to coming to the Inland Empire as an adult, I used to run campaigns. So I was more of the person who would always say, I don't want to be the power in the seat. I want to be, hate to say it, power behind the seat. So I spent a lot of time helping people locally in San Diego in my community and other getting elected, including running, helping and supporting a mayoral campaign in San Diego, which was at the time supporting Roger Hedgecock and other people in the District 4. I always was more focused on, and a lot of people know me now, I'm a data-driven kind of a person. I look at data, I look at outcomes, and I can, with some level of great predictability, figure out how a candidate made them. So that was my world. And then I fast forward. Being a first, of course, a lot of us talk about firsts, and mine was more being first in my family with going to college, then being first to be successful in competing for a fully paid fellowship as a master's program, which I was successful in the first round. My mentors, as you talk about, had prepped me for being prepared for perhaps not winning, but it would give me a sense of what to expect in the second time I go after it. Well, I exceeded and I won in the first process, which brought me to the city of Los Angeles, where I did my master's and my fellowship in San Pedro at the Port of LA. So I had a wonderful opportunity to get familiar with, again, Los Angeles politics and of course the cities and surrounding. Then I went back and went back to San Diego, and then I had a job offer, what brought me to the Inland Empire. Never thinking about needing to want to be in local politics. But when I arrived in Rialto at the time, and I looked around as to where I may want to live, it was a great place. It reminded me of home. The interesting thing, there was nothing wrong. It's just that, and you spoke earlier about women being a first in seats at Pasadena. When I came to Rialto, things were fine. But I looked at the existing makeup of the council, and it was pretty much all men. And it did not seem to be reflective of not only the diversity in the community or the gender. So in 1992, no issues, no stoplights, no stop signs. I said, well, I think this community needs to have some diversity. So my first platform was running on diversity for ethnicity and diversity for gender. I'm like Char said, it was 8 people in the race and I came in fourth. So I split a field. One of the persons that was returned to election was an incumbent. The other one was a new person, and it was a woman. So I felt, hey, woman got in first time around. I didn't, but I felt good for the 92. Went away with my career at Caltrans, went to Sacramento, still owning a home here, came back in 1995, 2000, there was a race that people had expected, and I wasn't in it, was going to be an interesting one because it was 2 women running for mayor. A woman had never run the seat of mayor. The one that expected they were going to win didn't. The other one both were incumbents. So the one that won, all of a sudden there was a vacancy. And I ended up getting a call from somebody saying, would you consider putting your papers in just to be appointed? And I was like, busy doing some things, been in Los Angeles working up, but I agreed. And I was selected. It was interesting because there was 2 African-American male on the council, Hispanic female and an Anglo female. Everyone felt, oh no, there's no way they're going to pick another woman or an African-American. Well, they did. And all of a sudden, the complexion of that council in one moment changed, where women were the majority and African Americans were the majority. And so it wasn't a run. Then when I was up for to be elected in 2002 as a council, I ran. Everybody was very supportive because my whole platform has always been a place to serve. I've been a public servant ever since out of elementary school. So I serve the community and try to address all of our needs. And that's pretty much have been my platform. There's been, like you said, you have amazing interest how people attack you and things that they come up with. You wonder, where did they get that from? I've had people Photoshop stuff and it's amazing. But what I find, and I think I said in my bio, when you finally find yourself getting elected mayor, and this was my 4th time I ran. I didn't win the first time because the incumbent had said she was going to retire. They encouraged her to get back in 2008. So Obama was elected, but I wasn't. That's okay. And so when it came around again, I was elected, then again reelected, even with controversy. And as I said in my bio, when the citizens reaffirmed a 3rd term, and it was across the board, I feel whatever I have been about, apparently it's been reflected in this community, because that has become historic now. The fact that I'm the longest serving, probably woman that they've had on this council. I've been serving now, first appointed and now elected almost 21 years. So no real issues. You guys would just here. And I'll tell you, my secret is I utilize young people. That's my ground truth. They love to be out, and they love to be on the ground, and they love representing me. And it's like football. You like to be 3-0. And so it gives them a chance to get the bug, and they enjoy winning. And I enjoy helping to navigate them and get them exposed to a civic engagement and leadership.
Thank you, Mayor. And I think that's so important. I remember when I was on the council, an older man, asked me why I appointed nearly all women, and in fact, younger women, to my commission seats on the council. And my reason that I gave him was because I remember when I first began running as a young person, one of the, I'll call excuses that I was given why people wouldn't vote for me is because they said I didn't have enough experience. And I think we all know right now that, being on a commission, being on any visible city advisory group and community-based work is the entree for many women into leadership. And so I want to make sure that someone else didn't have that reason to give, that someone, wasn't specifically on a city commission as the reason why they couldn't or wouldn't vote for them. And so I'm very proud that, I was able to have some younger folks represented on our city commissions. But that gives an entree for us to hear from Tina Fredericks, who is one of our newest Pasadena Unified School District board members. I am very proud of her. I'm glad and happy to have worked with her on her campaign. She is the newly elected board member on the Pasadena City Council. She has 2 children in the school district. She's active in our local Democratic clubs and civic organizations. And I just think that she brings a wealth of experience in different spaces within Pasadena politics and advocacy to the school board. And we'd love to hear from you, Tina, about what encouraged you to run, and also how you devised your kitchen cabinet to help organize your run. And also, I think what's important for your remarks today is that you ran during the season of COVID that we all continue to experience. And I know that is a very different campaign from what we're used to, which is in fact, talking to people face to face and knocking on doors and being in close physical contact, which you were not able to do.
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you, City of Pasadena Commission on the Status of Women. And yes, Jacque already revealed that she was my campaign manager. And by the way, she was my 2nd campaign manager. Wasn't quite a good fit the first one. Jacque was phenomenal support. And I echo what has been said already about needing that affirmation to just go for it. Just go run for office. And I think I've heard that it's not that women are not qualified to run for office. They're actually very qualified to run. It's just that they don't believe they can do it. So I echo what has already been said about, plant that seed in women's heads that, what do you think about running for office? What about this position? It's about like imagining yourself in that position. So, and I could look around this room and I see a lot of women that have encouraged me. Councilmember Jess Rivas had encouraged me to join Emerge California or apply for it. And I went through that program. And that's where I met Char and we learned about campaigning together. So this is a little small community, and I want to make sure we grow this, build the bench for women to run for office. And it's not only just, encouraging them, but like actively seeking, everywhere you go, oh, okay, there's a young woman there, or there's a very passionate woman there, plant that seed, and start thinking, okay, where are the openings, like on the commissions, for example.
Tina,
So,
I'm sorry, Tina, could you speak to, you mentioned that you had a few campaign managers before you settled on myself, but could you please just kind of talk everyone through how you selected a campaign manager and the qualities that you were looking for in your team, and even the volunteers that helped you on your campaign?
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you. Yes, so my kitchen cabinet was my husband. So I have two kids, one's 10, one's 13. And, one of the concerns I've had and many women have is like, how do I juggle running a campaign and being a mom, being a wife, having a full-time job still? So my husband had to say yes and be supportive and be there for the kids when I had to go and knock on doors. So a way to narrow down my selection for campaign manager is honestly, Jackie gave me permission to just do it my way, because it actually took a few months for me. I was looking for what's the formula to run a campaign, what's the book. There's no book. Tell me how to do this. And there's no one way, right? Like every district is different. There's different demographics, and I had to, you have to run it your way. It has to come from you. And I didn't let myself be myself until I had the right team. And I remember the dynamics totally shifted when Jackie came on board, and she supported me. Every crazy idea I had, she said, "Oh, that will work. That could work," and she always supported me. So it has to come from you. And I also had a small group of friends, and I didn't have to pay them. They just volunteered because they believed in me. And I had a volunteer coordinator and a marketing research person, which I don't think many campaigns have, where you actually ask your voters what issues they care about. And that actually shaped my messaging, or shaped my issues in a way that connected with the voters. So that was like an extra, a unique thing I actually haven't seen in other campaigns.
Thank you, Tina. And I think that's a good transition to our final panelist for this evening, Lena Kennedy, who is a very, very good friend of all of us and supporter of all of us. I like to say Lena knows anyone and everyone in Pasadena and beyond. She is the founder of San Gabriel Valley Women Vital Voices. She's been a campaign manager. She's a fundraiser extraordinaire. And like I said, she really knows her stuff. And so I just like to ask Lena if she could add to tonight's conversation with some advice for candidates or potential candidates on how they should approach a campaign first. And I'm reminded by Tina's remarks, one of the really important factors in deciding to run for office is having a campaign manager or consultant. And that is a big decision. I must say there's a lot of consultants out there and managers. And just because someone has a big name does not mean that they are the right person for your campaign. And so maybe you could just talk to us a little bit about that.
Thank you so much, Jackie. And thank you, Chair Beverly Morgan Sanders, and all of the commissioners and all of my colleagues that are on the panel. I admire each and every one of you, and it is an honor to be with each of you tonight. And Mayor Deborah Robertson, I don't know you, but it's a pleasure to meet you tonight. Kathryn Barger, who's a very good friend of mine, a personal friend of mine, and someone I just have the highest respect for. It is an honor to be with all of you. And the team that put this together, thank you for including me. And I just want to say, what a treat, what a delight, and what an important conversation to have. And we need to have more of these, Chair Beverly Morgan Sandoz, because it's important to keep people at the table and keep them excited and to keep them educated and informed. As Jacque said, I'm the CEO and president of Community Women Vital Voices. It's a nonprofit organization, and we have several programs. One of the largest programs that we have is a women's conference, which is over 2,000 women, and that conference is made possible because Kathryn Barger is the chair of that conference and has been now for, I think, when she was with Supervisor Mike Antonovich is when she started, and she's maintained that role. So publicly, thank you, Kathryn. I never get a chance to say that publicly, so thank you. Yes, I do political consulting. And what I really call it is strategic consulting. I don't call it political consulting. I call it strategic consulting. I also have a group that's put together with a group of women called Women in Leadership Vital Voices. And that executive team consists of women, all ethnic groups, all geographical areas. And we focus on policy and really working with elected officials across the country on policy issues. But some of the things that I found, if I may have some liberty, and you tell me when to stop, Jacque. When I work with candidates, I'm going to just tell you some tips that I think of that people should do when they're running or even thinking about running. I always say, make sure you have a base, build a solid team of volunteers, and start doing that way before you start announcing you're going to run. Start putting together a volunteer team, a strong base. Be organized and don't turn away volunteers. Create a winning strategy. Figure out what your win number is and what your goal is. And what I mean by that is look at the last 4 or 5 years and what it took for candidates to win in the seat that you're running for. And then I say double that. And if you do that, it makes you work harder. And never be scared. Ask a lot of questions. Make sure you have time to run for office. If you're going to run, look at your life and look at your career and look at the time that you have to run for office. Because what you have to do is eat, talk, walk, and you don't sleep when you're running for office. And you just have to make this your world. Everything you do should be about winning that election.
You can sleep at 8:01 p.m. on the day of your election.
That's right. Build your political brand. Make sure you have something that's speaking to your audience on your printed materials, your logos. And do something that stands out. Research how much money it takes to win, not run, to win. Research how much money it takes to win. And don't be afraid. Do not be afraid that you don't have any fundraising experience. Go for it, figure out what it takes, and then create a strategy that will put you in a position of winning. Research, I told you about how many votes, do that. And one of the things that I philosophically believe in, and I do, and I don't stray from this, I work with people that are willing to run a clean campaign. Run a clean campaign. Make sure you understand the components that's needed to run a successful campaign. And build good relationship with the press. It doesn't hurt to have a good relationship with the press. All across the board, build a good relationship with the press. Build relationship with churches and nonprofit organizations and synagogues all across the religious spectrum. Build those relationships. Some of them will say, you can't speak. That's okay. You still go, because it's about relationship building. Being successful in any area is about relationship building. And I always say, understand the ground rules on who can do what. Oftentimes I have I'm going to take that back. I have listened to candidates that are running for office, and they don't understand what happens on the local level, what role the local government plays. They don't understand what the school board can and can't do. They don't understand what the state, the county, the federal, they don't understand that, and that makes them not effective. Know how things work, and put some research and time into understand who has the power to do what. So when someone comes to you and you're working and you're running for an assembly seat and they say, I want my Social Security, this, and that. Well, that's not a level that you handle it. That's a federal level. So you need to understand those levels. And I think that's important. Also, when you're running for office, don't make a lot of promises to your constituency when you're running for office. You can give them hope, you can express your desires, listen to their concerns, but don't make promises, because when you get into that office, believe me, there's a huge learning curve, even if you worked for an elected official. When you get elected, it's a huge learning curve of the bureaucracy and all that happens. And you think that you can go in there and I'm going to get you this, and you'll find out that you need to get a whole lot of votes to make that happen. And there's a lot you need to understand. So don't make promises. I encourage, just give people hope, express your concerns. Build relationship with those you think are not supporting you. Even when someone's not supporting you, when you become an elected official, your goal and your job is to serve all voters in your district. So you can talk to those people that you know are supporting Lena, and maybe you're running. I've never ran, make that real clear to the audience. I've never ran for office, never had a desire, and never will. But when I work with my constituency or my clients, it's important that you talk to everybody. Those that have endorsed the other candidate, you also want to talk to them, and it doesn't hurt to ask for their endorsement. You never know what your persuasion skill may do in that conversation. If you are running against an incumbent, and Char knows this because she and I have talked about this, I think it's polite to let them know that you're running. And it doesn't mean that
You're not asking their permission. You're letting them know.
You're just being polite and letting them know. And you're just asking them that I hope we can be respectful and run a clean campaign. I think that's important. All the clients I work with, that's something that we always do. Always remember why you're running. And why do I say that? Because someone talked about, Mayor Deborah talked about how people can make up stuff and come at you from every which way. And you're going, where did they find that? What are they talking about? That's a lie. Stay focused on why you're running. Don't get pulled into the mud. Stay focused on what your agenda is and stay focused on the voters. Don't take things personal. I know this is hard, but I think it's important that you try to remove that from the equation, because it is hard. Some of the attacks are brutal and ugly, I know. And I also encourage people, and particularly, I strongly believe in building an absentee voting community. That is a way where you can actually count your votes. If you build that secures a certain number of votes. And I really work at encouraging that. And then I would say, get out the vote way early before the election. And I always think of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and she said, women belong in all places where decisions are being made. It shouldn't be that women are the exception. And so we really need to get out there and make sure that we are at the table. We're at the decision-making table. And I have more to share, but I don't want to take up much more time right now, which I think will be some statistical information that I think will be interesting to all of us, because I believe that women say we want women in office. We say that. I have not found the hardcore statistic, because I'm a statistical person. I like to have the facts, and I haven't found the facts, but I have some other information I'll share with you later. But what I ask all of you to do, from my experience, this is my experience, we say we want women in office, but when we write those checks, we will write a larger check to a male candidate or a male elected official, a larger check than we would write to a woman. And so I would ask all of you to just do an exercise, not tonight, on your own time. Look at how much you've given over the last 3 or 4 elections, and look and see how much you've given to a woman and how much you've given to a man. After you do that exercise, and that's for your own conviction, then you need to open up an account. Maybe many of you have it, but you need to open up an account just for women candidates. And every single month, you have to figure out what's good for your personal life. Put money in that account. What you will find, you'll end up with much more money in that account than what you thought you could give. So when someone's running for office, one of the biggest things I hear from women is, the money that it takes to run. Don't let that stop you from running. If all of us women did that, because remember, across the country, we're 52% of the voters. So why don't we have more women raising more money and more women in office. Locally, we have some big wins, supervisors, all women. We do have some big wins, but we need to do more. When we look at the state assembly and state senate, it's frightening. I conclude with that right now, Jacque. Thank you so very much for allowing me to be on this panel with all these powerful elected officials.
Thank you so much, Lena. And your remarks just strike a nerve on some things for me, and you know, good memories on others. But I'm reminded, you know, I'm over here shaking my head. I'm going to shake my head off because I just shook my head for your entire series of remarks. But I'm just reminded that, you know, like you said, we say we want women, you know, we see the disparities, we know what some of the barriers are, but honestly, and I think all of us can speak to this, sometimes we are our own worst enemies. And sometimes it is women that have some of the most disappointing remarks or statements or negativity to give to you. So we should all remember that as we're looking for, you know, local and other candidates to support. And I wanted to actually bring in Belinda Bowens, who's helping us to moderate the question and answers, and ask her just to let me know when we have some questions that have been posed. And I know, Char, you had your hand up. And
I just wanted to comment real quickly on Lena's comments. And, you know, the money is extremely important. I want to use just one example of what that money is used for, because I know sometimes people don't understand what the money's for. When you receive a mailer in your mailbox, that one piece is about $5,000. And so that kind of gives you the scope of what you need to do to actually, when you're looking at that win rate and the touches that you need to have. So when you're putting that money away in your savings or in your checking, as Lena had mentioned, think about that piece, and just think about that one little piece that has to be done from a candidate's perspective in terms of just getting that messaging out there.
And then just for clarification, Char is talking about a local municipality with 129,000. She has 20-something thousand people in her district. On a state level, a mailer could cost anywhere from, on a state level, not presidential, on a state level, not congressional, on a state level, a mailer could cost anywhere from $80,000 or more. So, and then when you talk about getting a qualified consultant, I'm no cheap piece of work. It costs to have somebody like me as a consultant, because I end up hiring your campaign manager, your treasurer, and all those things.
Right.
But to get me, when you get me, I've been doing this for over 40 years, you get a whole lot more that takes you a lot of time to do, and it's already done. So what Char's talking about is a local municipality on a larger level, it's much bigger money, and it is critical that we're able to put the money behind our female candidates so they can do the work that they can do. Thank you.
I just wanted to
add one thing to that?
From a very local. Go ahead.
No, you know, I was going to say, you know, we've got the National Women's Political Caucus that's in play for just this reason. They raise money and they support women candidates, and I love the fact that it continues to grow. And if any of you are not members, please take a look at it. We've got, you know, we've got one local that is very supportive of women candidates, and they help us raise money.
Yes, and let me just add to that. We do have 2 chapters in our area. We have the Greater Pasadena Caucus that serves Pasadena, Glendale, La Cañada, and Altadena. And then we also have our San Gabriel Valley chapter who serves South Pasadena and some of our neighboring foothill cities as well. So for sure, please look into those 2 organizations and others like Emerge California. Most labor unions have a member-driven political training programs for their members to encourage members to get involved. And there's just a wealth of knowledge out there that is ready, willing, and waiting to help women get elected. And it's so important for women to start at the local level, because we know that that's how you build the bench for women that are going to be prepared to run for county supervisor, state legislator, Congress, on up. And so, Belinda, are there questions that you'd like to share with us? You're on mute.
Jacque, while she's getting that together, I want to bring up something, and I will make sure I get these to Chair Morgan Sandoz. Some of the organizations there are organizations that give money nationally, locally, and I will give all these to Chair Sandoz, like sister district project. Some like reflect on us. Hope, which is a Hispanic organization for political equality, they do a lot of training. Emily's Lip,
for America.
yes, and so in the Encourage campaign, we work. Human Rights Watch, those and Courage Campaign and Human Rights Watch are organizations that do social justice work, but they're worthy if you're running for office to get connected to them, because in Human Rights Watch, they have a boatload of people that give a boatload of money, and most of those people that serve on those boards give to political candidates. The Lincoln Project is someone that I'm a strong supporter of. The Academy for Political Intelligence, the Los Angeles Giving Circle, and this is what I am. People that know me know this about me. I go to the Democratic convention and I also go to the Republican convention, because when we're talking about moving our country forward, we have to know how to work with all people. And I encourage you, because when you become an elected official, you have to serve all people. It doesn't mean you have to agree with all of them, but you have to serve all of them. And it's good to build those relationships and don't be so partisan driven. And many people I've met, they're partisan driven, and I discourage that. And I just had to put that out there.
And if you're running for
I'll pack to your list.
most local city offices are nonpartisan elections, especially for that reason, because local issues are not really partisan. Everybody wants clean streets, safe neighborhoods, and a safe city for their children to live in. And so I think that's really part of the experience that makes some state legislators in Congress and federal legislators productive, is because they have that local nonpartisan experience. And I just wanted to quickly add before we get to questions, for those that are first-time candidates or thinking about it, please do not get discouraged or bogged down in the money. It is very important. However, don't get caught up. I would advise not to get caught up into trying to hire a big-time consultant, especially when you're starting out or preparing before you actually announce your candidacy. At its base, campaigns are time, money, and people. And you have your own time to make all the phone calls, because if you decide to pay a fundraiser early on, they're going to do the same thing that you can do on your own, which is ask you for every single contact you've ever made in life, ex-boyfriends, people you went to high school with, friends, neighbors, family, and tell you to call all those people and ask them for money. And you can do that on your own without paying somebody. So just start at the most basic level and get a lot of stuff done on your own before you decide to pay someone. And it actually helps you to see if you're really serious about running. Belinda?
Hi, can you all hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Hello. What a delightful and informative panel. Thank you so much. I know, for one, I learned just so much by listening. I'm trying to take notes. Right now, we do not have many questions, and I want to remind the audience that we have this phenomenal panel of women with all this experience. So now is the time to really submit questions and have access to all this expertise. So if you have questions, please include them in the Q&A. This discussion is being recorded and it will be posted on the commission's website at cityofpasadena.net. So if you want to revisit this discussion, you can do that as well. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat.
Sure.
So moderator, right now we don't have any.
Jacque, can I follow up on something that you said?
Yes.
I appreciate the comment about bipartisan, and Lena, don't be mad at me. I don't go to either convention, which I sleep well at night knowing that I'm nonpartisan really when it comes to it. Because when you're an elected official at a local level, it is nonpartisan. And if you are beholden to a party, we see what happens in DC when either party is told how to vote. And I love the fact that I vote my conscience, I vote my constituents. And if you look at my record, I've talked to people and many of them really are confused as to what party I'm with, which means I'm doing my job. I'm doing what I believe is right for my constituents. And I think what's getting lost with politics today, especially at the local level, is the party politics. And I've been fortunate to have support from both sides, all of labor and all. But I think it's important for us to know that we have to build up women. Some of the most cruel people can be women when you're running for office. And I choose to be someone who wants to build up and not tear down. And I tell people, I always forgive. You don't forget, but you always forgive, because I do believe in karma. And what goes around comes around, as my mom said, and the older I get, the sooner it comes around, right? So I think it's important that you work together. I love what Lena said about you don't have to ask for permission, but be polite. I think that I always ran clean campaigns, and I made it about what I was going to do, not about responding to what people think I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm not going to make promises I can't keep. That's not how I was raised. That's not how I operate. But I appreciate what you said, because I think that that's sometimes what gets murked into it. And it's unfortunate, because local politics is nonpartisan.
Thank you, Supervisor. And before you end your comments, we do have a question for you, which is, do you find that running as a lone female candidate against men bring unique challenges? And also, Mayor Deborah, I see your hand up. So if you would like to respond after Supervisor Barger with your comment.
I'm not going to lie to you. I was raised in a household of 3 older brothers. So I'm the youngest, only girl. So I'm not really intimidated by men, but I will say when I ran the first time, I ran against all men, and it was a little intimidating because they tried to walk in like they owned the place. But what they didn't know is that I wasn't running against them. I was running to win the office. I didn't let them get in my head, especially some of them that were seasoned politicians. And a couple of them, one was a current office holder, and one had turned out in the state Senate. So at first I was intimidated, and then I think it was said, you bring your friends around you, and your friends build you up, and they make you feel like Superwoman, that there's nothing you can't do. And Lena Kennedy is one of those people. And I realized, man or woman, irrelevant to me. I'm running for the office, and I kept talking about what I'm going to do. And I too took what I call a scientific poll. I didn't take a poll that told you that I found the cure for polio, therefore I'm, an amazing person. I actually was my poll was true to who I am and what I want to hear from people. And I used that as my game plan, and that brought me over the finish line. But men operate a lot different in campaigns. And the term sticks and stones, it didn't break my bones.
Thank you. Mayor Deborah, you had a comment, and then also there's a question. What has been the most satisfying moment after a loss?
Okay, well, my comment was to somewhat echo in on what was the discussion, especially as it related to the fact that when you're at the local level and at the regional level, it's nonpartisan. But even with you, and if you should elect to move into those areas of partisan, which would be the state and Senate and congressional levels or whatever, you still have to vote your conscience. And I hope that regardless of what party you're affiliated with, I mean, our world is pretty much a 2-party environment nationally. You really have to be genuine, I feel, and sincere, and just speak your convictions, how you feel about something. I think that's what I have found in my time here, since being in an elected office, is, people will come and tell you, oh, you need to have this backing, or you need to have this support, and I found that that's not true. You need to make sure that you understand that you're running to represent people in your community, for whatever, to represent the people who vote for you. And sometimes you should not take it if you're not getting an endorsement. I think earlier we talked about organizations and affiliations and who will support you. I was born and raised, and I came basically out of a union background, working class, middle class, really understanding salt. And that oftentimes is just the basic fundamental of what your community is about. Everybody wants to be able to come home, have a family life, raise your children. We all need public safety. We need their assistance when we need them. And so I find, let's not get polarized down into one or the other, because we're still the residents who, and I always laugh, pay our tax dollars as little as it may be, and I sometimes talk to them about that, but there's that expectation. And that's why I said when I started off about, my whole agenda, it was about service. It's always been about service from the way I was raised. So coming to a community is running office because I want to be able to deliver and use whatever skills and talents I have that can really help to make our situation better. Now to the question that you asked about how did I feel?
The most satisfying moment after your loss, or how you dealt with loss.
Well, as I said earlier, the first time I really actually ran for an office and elected for representing people was in '92. And it was humbling because, like I said earlier, I had been busy always from young adult to adult professional, pretty much like Lena. Resources, people hire you when they know that you are very successful and very competent and capable of what you're doing best. So getting into an election, it was humbling, but it was satisfying. Like I said, knowing that you come in fourth out of a field of 8, that's 50%. You look at it and you say, fine, I'm relatively new. I came to the community in '88 and I ran for first office in '92. So I didn't take it as a statement that I wasn't qualified. I realized that, that I was already involved. I started out as being a commissioner and saw the things that I were my interests. So I didn't see anything lost. I think if anything, I was prepared because if you want to talk about a loss, I did run for a Democratic Central Committee seat in San Diego. And there again, vote for the top 6. Well, I didn't make it to the top 6. So, it didn't deter me because I was still a part of a team of objectives that we wanted to accomplish in San Diego. So I don't, I haven't taken the loss as something that is a personal statement against me. And then again, I haven't had a loss since since 2000, since 1992.
Right. Thank you. And I'll just add to that briefly. After I lost the mayor's election, I actually took it pretty hard. Just personally, because I felt like I worked really hard and did everything I was supposed to do. No, I did not get, well, actually I did get most of the, large major endorsements, but at the end of the day, it's the voters who choose the winner of the elections. And that's not to say that endorsements are not important. But again, there's life after a loss in an election, and I do plan to run again one day. I don't know where or when. It won't be tomorrow. I'm still adjusting to life as a new mother, and how to, in my mind, balance it. I'm, running as a single woman when you're 28 is different than running as a more a little bit older woman with children and a professional full-time life. Many of the local elected positions, you do, unless you come from wealth, you are holding another full-time job for your regular, professional day-to-day expenses. And so those are all factors that you have to consider, and factors that I continue to consider. I think that because I was so young when I was in elected office, and I did treat it for at least the first term as a full-time position, I took it was a blow to my professional career trajectory, so to speak. And so those are all things that factor into my future decisions. And we do have a question about, I see Councilmember Rivas is still on. If you could mind adding any input that you have, and also Tina, about any comments you may have regarding the age of women starting in politics and how you balance child and family obligations while serving.
Should I go first?
Tina, go ahead.
Well, I don't have as little as children as Councilmember Jess Rivas. I'm amazed that she can handle so much with the little one, as well as you, Jacque. Let's see. So the question was, how do I juggle, or?
Yeah, how do you manage your personal and family obligations, especially if you have children, and if you have any comments on the age of women when they start in politics?
Ooh, Well, let's see. I think that, and maybe Jess has this experience, but I do feel, and Jackie too, I do feel I am, I guess, younger of the board, and a lot of people, fellow board members either have children already grown and they're off, they have grandchildren already. So, yeah, I do feel that there's a sense of seniority, and I have to kind of earn that respect. As far as running for office and succeeding, being a younger candidate, and I also feel like that's a freedom in that there's a new generation, and we're doing it differently, and we don't have to do it the way it's been done before. So I think there's a freedom there too.
Thank you. Councilmember Rivas?
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I would say, I guess you just adapt to whatever's thrown at you. You just realize you are able to fit more than you thought you could. I think for me, my daughter was born right before the pandemic started. So that alone was a big challenge and adjustment, being a new parent in the pandemic with a lot less help than I had. So then once kind of this vacancy opened up in the fall of this past year, I kind of thought like, okay, I managed that. And moving forward, I feel like I could take on a lot more, and that I'd have a lot more support as coming out of the pandemic, from family and whatnot. So I think it's been hard. I can't understate that, but I think you really do. I think you'll find that you're even more resilient than you think you are, and that you are constantly realizing that you're exceeding your own expectations of what you thought you could accomplish. So for anyone out there that thinks this is just too big a project to take on, you will surprise yourself constantly. Don't rule yourself out before you even start.
Thank you. Lena?
Can I add one more thing?
Sure.
As I'm listening to Jess speaking, and I remember Jackie helping me with this, is you actually can be more efficient with your time. And I remember that, I really wanted to have dinner with my family. And so 4 to 6 was a nice time to be knocking on doors, and I would still come home to have dinner, so I could still do it all. It's just a matter of, there's a better time to be doing different things in your campaign. And honestly, if you can catch people having their dinner, they're home, so you can have that conversation with them. So there's a strategy behind that, the timing, and not so much, the quantity of time, but the timing of the different tasks in your campaign.
Sure.
Natalia just walked in, so I'm constantly trying to make sure that door's locked during council meetings, because that happens.
Sora's at grandma's house right now. That's the only
Yeah.
I'm not making a guess.
I just want to add to that, Jackie, as well. I think that it's extremely important that your family has really embraced you running. I know that going through the trainings with Emerge and with LawPi and LawPac, and actually, just NWPC, you have to keep your family number one, no matter what. You have to make sure that you have that Friday night date or whatever time that you've carved out for that particular special person in your life, because so many times I've heard, particularly women that unfortunately lost relationships, and that's just a real conversation behind running, and not keeping that as the focus and keeping their family as the nucleus. So that's one thing you just have to consider. And the balancing, Tina, as you said, just really making sure you have that moment of time with your family, no matter what.
Thank you. Lena, can I just ask you to answer lastly your last comments, and then also if you could speak to the question about the age of women when they decide to run, whether or not that should be a factor. And then also, I know we're about to end the forum, and so I want to allow time for our chair to give closing remarks.
So I think I heard all that. My attention span's this long now, but I want to say something that hasn't been brought up. So I want to answer your question first. I think what has not been said, I encourage women to run when they're little bitty kids in high school and junior high and elementary, run for a local compete. Even if you lose, do it. My little niece, who's 10 years old, just put together a video, ran for treasurer at her local school, and she won. And what that does, it gets you ready. It doesn't mean you're always going to have a win, but it lets you get ready for what you want to do. Because I bet you if each one of you looked at your lives when you were younger, what you're doing now is what you were doing when you were younger, and you just didn't realize it. The other thing I want to bring up real quick in closing, Jacque, I want to throw out some numbers because I'm about women and making all of us think real critical and real hard. So in the New York Times, in the 2020 exit poll, 52% of the women across the nation, the majority of the voters are women. 48% are men. Trump and Biden ran. White men, 61% of the white men voted for Trump, 38 voted for Biden. White women, 55% voted for Trump, 44% voted for Biden. Black men, 19% voted for Trump, 79% voted for Biden. Black women, 9% voted for Trump, 90% voted for women. Latino men, 36% voted for Trump, 59% voted for Biden. Latino women, 30% voted for Trump, 69% voted for Biden. All others, 38% Trump, Biden, 58%. And if you get you could look this up in New York Times and give you up in more detailed statistics. But why do I bring this up? Because I want to just close out on this, Jacque, and for all of us. The above data indicates that race is a greater factor than gender in how people vote. I have more to say, but I won't say all that. And why did I bring that up? Because when we look at Black women, so we're women. So first we're women. Then those of us that are Black and they run for office, it's even harder for them. And then when we talk about Latinos and we talk about Asians, those are challenges. And we didn't talk about that much tonight, but when you talk about building a winning campaign, you have to include those factors in it. So, and then was there another question, Jacque?
No, just about the age of women when they decide to run. But I think your question.
But I think
that.
According to your conviction, and then what I want all of us to think about, we think about things are changing. 30, 40, 50 years ago, the people that you see sometime now in office, they were in their late 20s and 30s and they had families when they ran. They just got old. John Conyers got old and died. I mean, really, and I'm saying this jovial, but seriously, we don't stay young forever. So you're never too young to run for office. President Kennedy, all these people that run, you don't have to be 70 something running. You could be in your early 20s, Jacque Robinson, running for office, and you can run for higher offices. These people were not old when they went into office. They got old. So keep that in mind.
Thank you, Lena. Thank you. And I know we're coming to the close of our program, so I want to turn it back over to our chair.
Jacque, while you're turning that over, as the past chair, may I have 1 second? Just 1 second. As the past chair of the Commission on the Status of Women, I am so incredibly proud of these commissioners that are in the seat today and keeping the Herstory event going on. I remember the first one. We salute you. Thank you so much. A job well done.
Thank you. Thank you. Chair Sandos?
Yes, thank you. You know what? We could continue this for probably another 2 hours.
Yeah.
The information that you have shared, panelists, is so needed. And so we thank you, Supervisor Barger, Lena Kennedy, Char, Tina Fredericks, Deborah Robertson, Councilmember Jess Rivas, and our moderator, Jacque Robinson-Baisley. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. When we began the program, I said that we would end by acknowledging some of our former commissioners who are no longer commissioners. And the two that we're going to acknowledge with certificates are former Commissioner Norma Fernandez and former Commissioner Martinez Sanchez. I think Commissioner Martinez Sanchez is not with us tonight, but Commissioner Norma Fernandez is. Norma, did you want to give a greeting? Would you unmute, please?
Sure. Thank you so much, Chairwoman Sandos. Good to be with you all this evening. It was lovely to join in as a panelist and not a commissioner and listen in to the wonderful and very necessary conversation around this issue. So super exciting that Herstory continues. I was part of the group when we first launched this along with other women on the commission. So it's just exciting, to Char's point, that it continues to address important issues in our community, and most important, amplifying and elevating our voices and issues of equity.
Thank you. Thank you so much. The certificate that we will be giving to our two former commissioners read, "For your service on the Commission on the Status of Women, which advises the City Council on the special needs, concerns of women of all ages, races, religions, ethnic and cultural backgrounds, and economic and social circumstances, and which recommends programs and legislation to promote equal rights and opportunities for all women in Pasadena." We thank you for your service.
Thank you.
So in closing, if you are considering a run for public office, we hope you have been inspired by today's program to just go for it. We hope that when you see a woman running for political office, you take the time to find out about her and consider financial support to her campaign. And if you are considering running for office, there are resources to assist you and support you. And in follow-up to our presentation today, we will put together, the Commission on the Status of Women will put together a list of those resources and make those available to you. We hope you agree with the results of a survey in which a majority said having more women in government would improve the quality of life for all. We believe there are women in this audience who will become part of a California delegation that will be 50% women. We believe there are women in this audience who will win the position of governor. We believe there are women in this audience who will become the Speaker of the California Assembly. We believe there are women in this audience who will be appointed to boards and commissions and who will become chairpersons of those boards and commissions. And we know you join us in celebrating our MVP, Kamala Harris, a woman who truly said, "I can," and who did. Going forward, the story of American vice presidents can never be told without saying the name of a woman. Finally, we hope that whatever your journey, you will write and tell your story, her story. We look forward to continuing to work together to advance the rights, representations, and quality of the life for women and girls in our communities. We thank you for joining us and have an excellent rest of your evening.
Thank
Good
you.
night.